3 bandits and a police officer dead following an armed confrontation this morning in Berbice, while the body of an eyewitness to a robbery committed by these same bandits is recovered.
Government is to review the operational procedures of the executive lounge at the Timiri Airport amidst non-compliance of rules and security concerns.
And you won't imagine just how easy it is for your child to purchase pornographic videos.
Business News, eye on the judiciary, health tips, and of course the latest sporting action in the Diamond Mineral Water and NCN Sport News, and more after these. Good evening, I'm Delisi Fletcher.
And I'm Paul Moore.
With this edition of the 6 o'clock news for today, Friday, November 28, 2008. Here's what's happening, Paul.
Thanks, Delicia. Police have shot and killed 3 bandits, including the infamous wanted man James Gibson, during a shootout in East Berbice. Also killed in the confrontation is Police Constable Oslin Glasgow, while the body of Hector Budu, an eyewitness to a robbery carried out by the gang, was also discovered. Reports are that around 16 hours yesterday, the gang robbed a fisherman and his family, who reported the matter to the Rose Hall police station. The men were seen walking along the Rose Hall beach at around 6 this morning when the police immediately responded and the armed confrontation ensued, resulting in the deaths of the men. The bodies of the men are at the New Amsterdam mortuary awaiting a post-mortem and identification. James Gibson was arrested in 2006 along with Oliver Hinkson for illegal possession of arms and ammunition, but since he was released on bail, never showed up for court. NCN's Edward Lane is on his way from Berbice and will bring you more later in the cast. Cabinet has urged the Guyana Revenue Authority to enforce the laws against persons found evading the national tax system. This call comes on the heels of a move by the authority to clamp down on illegal telecommunication networks countrywide. More in this report.
For several years, there has been a large volume of these so-called internet cafes springing up in various areas across the country, and Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Luncheon says this is of significant concern to government. He notes that these providers have been evading the tax system, resulting in substantial revenue loss to the state. As such, Cabinet has urged the Guyana Revenue Authority to take the necessary steps to deal with defaulting parties.
Cabinet has urged the Guyana Revenue Authority to be more vigilant in enforcing the tax laws by proceeding aggressively against tax evaders. That call from Cabinet came in the wake of information and details about telecommunications service providers and operators who use the internet for sending and receiving calls in and out of Guyana.
Dr. Luncheon notes that the GRA intends to conduct an assessment to determine the extent of illegal operations and losses.
The GRA has to do first, not necessarily sequentially, but at least they have to do the assessment, the investigation. Who are these telecommunication service providers and operators? Then, having done that, some suitable mechanism for assessing earnings. What do they charge? I'm told people here utilize their services. So, what do they earn?
Earlier this week, the Guyana Revenue Authority expressed concern about the large number of individuals and entities involved in the international telephone business. According to the GRA, these operations have significantly affected the revenues collected from legitimate providers of international services. The company stated that the rapidly increasing operations and their impact on national collection revenue is too significant to ignore. Reporting for the 6 o'clock news, I'm Shard Lal.
Government has offered its no objection to several contracts for works and services in various sectors across the country. These include $74.1 million for the establishment of Anna Regina Army Base and procurement of maintenance services for the GDF. Government has also given the green light for $245.2 million to procure sewage pumps and upgrade water distribution systems in various areas. It has also been approved It has also approved over $300 million for GPL, $38.1 million for the Ministry of Health's Sprinkle Initiative, and $61.2 million for the construction of a transshipment terminal in Region 10. Health Minister Dr. Leslie Ramsamy says the recently held National Day of Testing is evidence that Guyana has progressed in its fight against HIV stigma and discrimination. The minister made this comment in light of the large numbers of persons who came out for that event, even as the world prepares to observe World AIDS Day on Monday. Details from Monica Jones.
Guyana will join the rest of the world on December 1 in observance of World AIDS Day, and Health Minister Dr. Leslie Ramsamy says Guyana has much to be proud of in the fight against the disease. He noted that more than 15,000 persons have been tested during the National Week of Testing, which indicates a reduction in stigma and discrimination.
Where people used to hide and come to be tested, and now people openly make lines to be tested in public places. They make lines. So I think the National Day of Testing demonstrate that Guyana is making serious, genuine inroads in not only the fight against HIV, but also in the fight against stigma and discrimination.
The minister says during that period, just over 100 persons were tested HIV positive. He says a statistical report on HIV prevalence among the different groups will be released shortly. Dr. Ramsamy also indicated that a draft HIV legislation has already gone through consultation and will be tabled in the National Assembly next year.
The problem with HIV legislation is it also addresses other legislation, such as the anti-discrimination, the employers and employee legislation, and it also addresses an important phenomena of personal information. And so that those are subsidiary legislation that must also be built in order to move forward the HIV legislation. So once the HIV legislation is virtually completed, it necessitates amendments to existing legislation and also the introduction of new legislation for personal health information.
In the meantime, several activities have been planned leading up to World AIDS Day, beginning with a grand concert tomorrow. This concert will feature many local artists, including gospel singer Edward Neblett. This year's World AIDS Day focuses on leadership. The campaign calls on all sectors of society, rather than just government, to take the initiative and provide leadership on AIDS. Onika Jones, the 6 o'clock news.